am joined with Garbage Girl. You want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Hi, my name is Sabina, aka Garbage Girl. Thanks for having me.
No, yeah, thanks for coming. So I just want to start off of like what got you into creating music.
Of course, good question. I've always been a supreme music enjoyer and a big fan of my friends' music, and grew up listening to a lot of different types of music because my parents listened to kind of very different music. And I played piano growing up and was a little bit of a SoundCloud rapper in high school. And then during college, I did performance art and some sound installation stuff, but it was only really after I graduated during the pandemic that I started making music and producing myself.
What was your SoundCloud rapper name? Did you have one?
Oh my god. It was Queen Beena B. Yeah. Beena B and Queen B. Yeah, I'm super freaky. What you get is what you see. Address me as your majesty. That's my
Could anyone find it on the internet, or have you deleted everything?
Actually, no. For better or for worse, I had a boyfriend that found my music to be too provocative and encouraged me to delete it off of the internet. And sadly, I don't have any backups of it. But I would love to.
Lost media.
I would love, if anybody has it anywhere, I would love to hear it. But yeah.
And now it's just lost media.
Yeah, in the void. It's somewhere. It'll probably resurface when I least want it to.
Someone will have like backups and backups. And like,
yeah.
Wait, is this you?
I'm like,
oh. So you lived and studied in England for like 5 years. How do you think living in that scene kind of influenced you? And like, I mean, how long ago was that? Like 5 years ago, or like?
Yeah, so it's about 5 years now. I moved when I was 18, so 18 to 23. I was there, just like pretty prime time formative years, and I spent a lot of time just going out and clubbing and spending time with my friends who are making music. And yeah, I was just really inspired by the music scene there. I listened to a lot of happy hardcore and electronic music there, grime. And yeah, I think I was a big hype girl. And so it was a really fun opportunity when everything shut down to kind of start making my own stuff.
Yeah, you kind of like stole my next question. Because like in I think your Deli Mag article, like you're quoted as like, being like a hype girl for people that you've dated. How did it feel to like step outside of that and like, kind of become your own hype girl, or like kind of like release your own music now?
It feels really good. I think I'll always be inspired by the people that I hyped, and I'll continue to hype. But to have other people ship me and enjoy my music is really encouraging and really uplifting, and yeah, unexpected. I think when I moved to New York, I was like, if I ever play one show, I'll be happy. Like that would be just amazing. And so after having that opportunity, suddenly I got to play more shows, and the bar kind of raised a little bit. And I was like, oh, what if I got to play this kind of show or with these people? And yeah, it just seems like I have a little goalpost and then I meet it and I'm kind of like, oh, what's next? So everything just kind of follows in that way. Like being like, oh, I really like listening to music. Maybe I should make something. And then it's like, oh, I should make something. And then, oh, I really like performing. Maybe I should perform.
Do you think moving to New York and living here has helped? Because I feel like everybody is like kind of in a creative space.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. The people that I know, I don't know. I like to generalize my experience, but I think everyone is very open and like always wanting to collaborate with or help you learn something.
Absolutely. I'm really grateful that when I first moved here, I moved at the same time as my friend Winnie, and she is an incredible like event organizer, and she was the person who booked my first show. She moved out from Oakland too, and she booked me with Frost Children and her and Kamal, and it was, and I think some other awesome musicians I don't remember at this juncture, but yeah. And so then from there, I ended up meeting more people that I wanted to collaborate with and people I'm still friends with. And I feel really fortunate to just kind of have had it snowball. And I actually met Mark, the producer of my album, because we have mutual friends from London, and we both lived in London at the same time, but we never met when we lived there. We were like going to the same parties, and we never met until we both moved to New York years later.
Yeah, I love when that happens too,
Yeah,
because it's just like you were always meant to meet. It's like serendipitous. Like you've always like been like in the same. I like thinking of like, oh, I was in the same party or something before I met this person.
Yeah,
and now we're super close, and like that's obviously a reflection of like the things that you're interested in.
Right, because yeah, I think like if we had met then, like I wasn't making music yet, so maybe we wouldn't necessarily have the same like inclination to collaborate, and so it's cool that we met at that point. Yeah.
What do you think other artists here that have helped you in your journey or that you feel inspired by?
Oh my gosh, literally so many. But Allison from Shallow Halo has always been just like so supportive of me and uplifting, and I truly appreciate her, and her zany stage presence is awesome. May Rio is just like a powerhouse, insane vocalist, so talented and so sweet. And also just like one of those friends who will tell you to it, like how you need to hear it. Grumpy, aka Grumpy, is my least favorite band. Heaven, insane, just put out a single off of their upcoming album, and it's so good. Big Dumb Baby. Yeah, just so many people. I'm like, yeah, truly humbled and inspired at the same time by everyone around me. Like sometimes you feel a little bit like you're shouting into a vacuum. Like
yeah, and also just like, you know, to plug a little bit, we've had Allison and Mario on the podcast, so if you guys want to go back and listen to that also.
Yeah, definitely. Great episodes. Just, take a listen.
You know, just go back and listen to that. Yeah, but they're super sweet and nice, and I think that like all the people that you've mentioned have been like are super sweet and nice, and like also put out amazing music, and I feel like are consistently collaborating with people.
Yeah. Oh, also November Girl. Amazing, like very different type of music to me, but the type of community that Willa brings around her is so amazing, and the other bands that she plays with are super sick too. Had to remember that one.
Yeah, I think I just started listening to them like recently.
Yeah,
really cool.
I put one of their tracks on the playlist. Yes.
And then so you just put out an EP that's self-titled. And some of these songs date all the way back to 2019. How did it feel to like finally release them?
It feels really relieving and really vulnerable to release music. I feel like at least now, having released some singles or shorter projects, I kind of know that it feels a little bit like your stomach is dropping, like when you're going down a roller coaster and you're kind of just like, and you like have to just like let it go into the wild and see what people think about it. But part of me has a hard time even listening to it because it just reminds me of those times so much. Like I love every track, but my personal relationship with it is very different to people who are just listening to it for funsies. So that's been interesting, especially with a project that's self-titled. I feel like it's kind of nice that it's just out there and I could just be like, okay, this is a project that I'm proud of and I feel like represents me as an artist, and now I can move in whatever direction I want to go.
And so the EP kind of focused on like shedding parts of your former self. How would you like give advice to someone who's trying or like going through that process themselves, or kind of like going through like a metamorphosis?
Yeah. I think it's really important to be gentle with yourself. I think it can be really easy to fall into this pattern of thinking that you should be in a different place than you are, or that you need to measure your success or growth or amount of change against somebody else. But truly, every little change for the positive that you make, I think you deserve a reward, even if it's just to ease up on yourself and like, you know, tell yourself good job. But I'm definitely a treat-based person. So something that helps me when I'm changing is to kind of replace or give myself some sort of treat, even if it's not like an actual physical thing, whether it's like listening to a song that I really like over and over. Like sometimes creating a positive association for myself with change helps me to make it last longer. But definitely number one thing, being gentle.
And so with this EP, what song came first, and like what was like the one that like you finished last?
I don't remember. I think that Looks Maxing might have been the one that was first drafted. And I think that was in 2018 or 2019 that I started writing it, and I was in college. And my ex and I actually put out a music video for my final major project at university, and that used a really similar hook. And so revisiting that and kind of making it feel more contemporary was really healing for me. And it was a fun opportunity to use something old and transform it into something that felt more representative of where I currently am. Yeah. And then Horsecock came in the middle. And that one was really fun because it was like Mark had the beat and I wrote something as he was like finishing up the beat, and it just like all aligned, and we recorded it, I think, in like 1 or 2 quick sessions. And I really like that one. It's really fun to perform too.
It's our lead single.
Yeah.
Also, which is crazy, it's based on Cronenberg's movie Crash.
Yes.
That movie is so insane.
It's so fucked up.
It's so insane. Like I love it, but also hate it at the same time. Like it's just like such a crazy concept for a movie.
It really is. And I think there's so much art about car crashes. You know, like Andy Warhol had his whole Crash series. And I think there's something really interesting just about the idea that of just like we're just hurtling around in these metal containers, and one wrong move can really change your life. And then on top of that, there's something really transformative about the process of driving from one place to the other, even simply, or there's a lot of pressure for it all to be working correctly, I guess.
Yeah, and I just think it's crazy about like thinking about like people that are going around trying to view car crashes
in an erotic way.
In an erotic way, or just like having that tied so closely to death too. Like the greatest thing that could happen for them is to be close to death, like in like this like weird car crash esque.
I guess it's like embracing that we always are. Like we always are so close to death, which like as anxiety girlies, maybe it's not the most comforting thought. But at the same time, I think there's something really beautiful in just recognizing like the impermanence of living. And
yeah, I think about that all the time because I feel like sometimes I'll watch a video of people doing like preventative measures for like beauty and stuff, which like no hate to it, but I'm just also like in the back of my mind, it's like we are all gonna die. At the end of the day, we're all gonna die, and like no one's gonna look in your casket and be like, oh wow, she looks so young.
Eyelashes
they
look amazing.
So young.
Yeah.
I think what really got me was like there's this one video I saw of a person using like a straw that's supposed to like prevent wrinkles.
Oh, I've seen those.
Yeah, I'm like, we're all gonna die, and no one's gonna be like, oh wow, she has no wrinkles in the casket.
No, I totally think it's we're at a point where people are so scared of it, you know, visually, but also literally, like, you know, sleeping with a whole like device around your head to stop you from moving, and all of these things on your face. And I mean, to each their own, of course, but it definitely, hey.
We've got a visitor, if you guys can hear.
Hey, girl.
Miss Fauna. How would you describe Garbage Girl to someone that has never listened to you before?
I have tried to answer that question. I usually give a completely different answer every time. Sometimes I'm like slutty pop, and sometimes I'm like spooky bass, and sometimes I'm like hardcore. I don't know, like, but I think, I think I always feel like I describe it in a different way, which I think is kind of funny. And I think that kind of relates to my project a little bit too.
And I feel like it's also like, depending on how you are feeling at the time.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, beat go fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes I describe things in a simplistic way. Like sometimes, I don't know, depending on the day, it could be different.
Yeah, exactly. But I think like experimental electronic music or EDM. EDM is a fun one because people are like Skrillex, and I'm like kind of, sort of, like like twice removed.
Twice removed.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, I feel like it's just interesting describing the genre. I like to like think of like what people would describe their music as, and then also it just depends on sometimes like in the mood that you are when you're listening to music can like infer how you like describe it. Because like if I'm sad and I'm listening to something, like then maybe I'm like paying attention more to the lyrics than I am to the actual sound or something like that.
Yeah. No, truly. I mean, yeah, the context in which you're listening to music really changes it. I think when I listen to the most recent EP, when I'm like driving or walking somewhere or on the train, it really feels like it matches that. And it feels like it's more of like a uplifting or like dancey beat. But then when I'm just like sitting and listening to it, I start to listen to the lyrics more, and I'm like, oh wow, this is, you know, there's some little heavy moments there, or something that's a little darker or weird happening.
Yeah, and so this project has been out for almost a month now. How does it feel like that now that it's like out in the universe?
Yeah, it still goes back to that feeling of like feeling relieved and kind of just like excited to see what comes next with it. I'm really excited to perform the album, and it was really amazing when I first released it to just see how many people were excited to listen to it and messaging me telling me they were listening to it. And it like like I was blushing, and I was actually at work the day that I released it, and I was like freaking out on my phone all day, being like, "Oh my god!" Which is a funny dynamic to be like at work and being like trying to
concentrate.
Yeah.
And so you're having your first headline show at Elsewhere next week.
Yes, the 14th.
Like almost a week from tomorrow.
Yes.
How excited are you for it?
I'm super excited. It's going to be awesome. The bill is stacked. It's going to be the best Wednesday night of your life. Of my life, maybe I'll say. But yeah, I'm really excited for it, and humbled that Austin asked me to do it. I think it was an awesome opportunity. And the cat.
Yeah, she's going on.
I'm like, she's just hyping me up. She's like,
she's
yes.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, so Mark will be DJing, Div Pro. DJ Fuck, aka Sam Rolfs, will be DJing too. Insanely talented DJ and artist I'm super excited for. Jane Dye, also really so cool. Like, went to Juilliard, amazing electronic musician.
We also have the honor of presenting Goddess, aka Rachel Toyota and Sam from Mother Cell. Super big inspirations sonically, and just all around very cool party people will be performing together with their new project. It's so sick. I can't wait to see it live.
It's gonna be awesome.
This is probably gonna come out after, but you guys, if you didn't go, you missed out.
Yeah.
You missed out, and there will be other opportunities.
Oh yeah.
To see a Rich Girl live. Don't you worry. But how do you feel now? Because like we've talked about stepping stones, like so this is like your first headlining show. What do you think is like your next like big thing that you hope to accomplish?
I would love to plan an event at a larger venue. I've been talking to my friend Fefi, who is an amazing like art director. Do you know Fefi?
I don't think so.
Okay, super cool. She organized a fashion show that I DJ'd for recently, and also the mud wrestling show that November Girl played recently that I was really excited about. And we've talked about planning a show coming up soon, maybe in September or October.
Yeah.
And
so like curating.
Yeah.
Which is super fun.
Yeah. I think it'll be fun to have a little bit more time in advance to plan and plot for an actual event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Planning and plotting is so much fun. Okay, so get it to the second half. So your playlist, which is music to make change to. I think you changed the title. Maybe,
oh yes.
To try to make a change.
Trying to make a change. Because you know that text meme that's like 23 trying to make a change.
Yeah.
Like, and then the sideways face. I was like, I feel like that's. I think I might have even had a playlist that was titled that before, like way back in the day. And I just felt like music to make change to is also equally as fitting, but trying to make a change is a little funny.
Yeah. And I think it's like, yeah, center it out, like being in and in between. You're in your 20s, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just wondering. I feel like that, because I feel like we're the same age. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always think everyone's my age.
Yeah. Yeah, I have this weird thing where I always think people who are taller than me are older than me. And then I'm like, Sabina, it doesn't work like that because everyone's taller than you.
No, yeah, I love how. Yeah, my thought process is everyone's either my age or younger than me, and that's just like never the case. I'm like, oh, they're younger than me. I find out like they're like 3 years older than me. I'm like, shocked.
You're like, what? Yeah, I'm 26. I'm turning 27 on August 11th. So next weekend.
Next week. I'm almost turning 27 in a month. September 14th.
You're Virgo.
Yeah.
Cool. I
And
love
you're
Virgos.
Leo.
Yeah.
I know so many Leos. Sorry, I'm
Really?
getting sidetracked.
No.
But like in the span of this month, like Leos and Cancers, like there's been birthday, another birthday,
Yeah.
another birthday. I'm like, where did you guys all spawn from?
I also feel like summer birthday people are like very much like, kind of my birthday, we're going to the beach.
Yeah, I think I was also talking about that with a friend. We were talking about how I think because when you're going to school in elementary and like high school, and they never got to celebrate their birthday in school, that like everyone that has a summer birthday now that we're adults is like, come to this thing, let's do this.
Exactly. Yeah, growing up, everyone was always on their family vacation around my birthday.
Yeah.
Don't blame them, but yeah.
Now we're adults and we have the time. So sorry, I got sidetracked. But I think that I brought about being in your 20s because I think like being in between is like that's what your 20s are about. I feel like it's like you are an adult but not quite. I don't know how else to describe it because I feel like you're a baby adult, and I feel like that's kind of like a weird thing to say, but I feel like when I was younger I thought that I would have so much more figured out than I currently do right now at this point in time.
100%.
And now that I'm here, I'm like, oh, I'm actually still just a baby, and like everything, all the decisions and like things that I thought I would have figured out are not that yet. And just like about learning and growing and having to deal with like maybe I'm not where I want to be.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely is hard to be in that in-between space, like where you're not necessarily where you want to be, but you've come a long way from where you were. That's kind of how I feel. Yeah. I think I feel a little bit like that having released the album too, if I'm completely honest. Just that like I love the album, but it's already, I'm really excited to get into the next project, and I see so many directions I could go. Yeah. And I think I just feel that way in the rest of my life too. Like I'm like, oh, do I want to be on a homestead? Like, do I want to go woofing? Do I want to go to massage school? Yeah. Do I want to just like buckle down and try to become a CEO?
Yeah, nothing's permanent, and you can like always like start changing. Like it makes me think of like psychology and like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then it's like self-actualization is at the top, but I feel like it's so hard to self-actualize because there's so many things that you can still do. Like once you like we were talking about, like once you get to a goalpost, you're just like, I actually want to do more, and I want to keep on doing stuff and keep on creating.
Yeah, I think that's the great thing about being ambitious is that you actually do reach your goals, and then you're like, oh, okay. And there's a little like moment after where you're kind of like, what's next? What's next? And then once you get used to that feeling though, then, you know, what do they call it? Like the little death that people say, like the little death after you come. That's what it feels like. And then you have to decide what you're gonna do next. Are you gonna like get up and make breakfast, or are you gonna like go back to sleep?
Yeah. And then how do you think you go about bringing change in your life?
I think the best way to bring about change is to kind of Jedi mind trick myself into it, actually, because I think I can be pretty stubborn. But I know that about myself, so I have to kind of, as I said earlier, just to give advice to people is to be gentle, and I try to reflect that in myself. But definitely treats, and how do I go about bringing about change? Step by step, like one thing at a time. I write a lot of lists, and try to reward myself for every step of the way. And if I fall back or something changes, I don't punish myself for taking a different course of action.
Yeah. She's agreeing.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Do you journal at all, or?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm trying to be more consistent about journaling, but I feel like it's also fun to like kind of gamify your life in a way where it's not like you're giving punishments, but like if I do these 3 things, then I get a reward, or if I making lists and like doing everything that I've accomplished in my list, and then like getting a little treat and reward. I think it makes life easier because I feel like it's so easy to get into a cycle of being hard on yourself.
Yes.
But trying to look at things optimistically is a good thing, I think, because then, I don't know, it makes life easier to go through, because it's like you can't, like, being hard on yourself, you can like really just like down spiral really fast.
Yeah, and it all compounds, you know. And then you're like, oh, well, I don't even deserve to get better because I can't even do this one thing that I really want to do to change myself. And I'm like, yeah, it's really easy to stay stuck in that and feeling like you don't deserve to improve your life. But sooner or later, that becomes the treat, or that becomes the reward, is you making the change, you know? And that's kind of an exciting point to be at, I guess. Like, I feel like quitting smoking in October of last year was a really big marker of change in my life, because I, for the first time, really decided that rather than quitting smoking, I would just choose my health. And so rather than leaning away from something that I was trying to get rid of, I was leaning towards something else that I really wanted for myself, which was just to be healthy and not feel winded going upstairs, for example. You know,
that is like positive reinforcement. Like, it's like quitting, like I'm giving it up, but like no, you're like choosing yourself over cigarettes or whatever your vice.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's can be different. And then it became another kind of fun goal posting thing of like, oh, well, what happens if I stop drinking for 6 months, or what happens if I stop like having toxic conversations with myself about this person, or, you know, whatever it might be. Like,
And so we're talking about that. And you posted recently on your Instagram how you gave up, that you were celibate for 6 months. Or celibate for 6 months, or like 180 days.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you?
Well, it was really interesting because I definitely started it on, honestly, like more like a joke. And then it became really real really quickly. And I think that was, you know, she needs to try it out.
Yeah, she does.
The cat.
Try it out. Yeah. She would feel so much better.
Yeah, she would. Just find some inner peace, kitty. But yeah, so it started out very much as a joke. And then I started to realize how many things were coming up for me. Like my relationship patterns became really obvious to me when I wasn't in a relationship, or when I wasn't pursuing anything with anyone, or trying to see what my next relationship would be like, or see who I would be with next. And so it stirred a lot of reflection on what I really am looking for myself, both romantically, but then also intimately. And I realized, like, oh, I haven't really been prioritizing intimacy with myself, even just on like a simple level, like taking care of my body and making my music. Initially, I was basically refusing to come until I released my album. And I was like, there were all these jokes that I was gonna have like an orgy release party. And then I was like, oh, actually this whole experience has really changed my mindset around intimacy, and I want to be a lot more selective about how I interact with other people intimately. And so it kind of called in a lot more than I was expecting it to. But for me, yeah, it started out just that I wasn't going to be sleeping with anybody. And then I decided that I also wasn't going to be pursuing anything romantic. And then that I also wasn't going to be masturbating, which like is pretty extreme. Like anybody that I've talked to about it has been like, when I got to that point, they've been like, whoa, that's crazy. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's kind, I mean, it gives me the same juice in some ways. So I think really trying to get my pleasure in other ways and be really present in that has been really empowering, because I think I tend to put other people's needs above my own kind of unconsciously. And so really choosing that over and over and over again has been really positive.
Yeah. And I think it's like important to like decenter intimate and like romantic relationships, because I feel like it helps you figure out who you are. Because I think I do think that romantic like relationships are important, but sometimes I think the society we live in like centers that a lot more than it centers being by yourself.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know how to live by themselves or with themselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard and scary, but I think it's like important too.
Yeah. I mean, it is confrontational sometimes, like especially when it was first starting to
Oh my god, she's going ham.
Especially when I was first starting to just really witness like how much I wanted to be rescued or saved or like comforted by somebody else through the feelings that I was having. I mean, gratefully too, like I have a therapist and see her once a week and have other ways of like, you know, engaging with these thoughts where it doesn't feel like I'm just doing it in a vacuum, which I think could be a little bit more isolating. But I forget where I was going.
Anna really has something to say. I don't know if she agrees. She's in a little like, heat moment herself.
Yeah. She's like, it's completely natural and part of your life. And I'm like, yes, but it's been part of my life for so long. Like I haven't really had, you know, this is the longest like I've ever gone without being with somebody intimately or romantically. And the amount of self-realization that I've had has been amazing.
Yeah, I think it's like important to like come back and like realize who you are. I think it's like, I don't know, it's important, especially like if you're younger. I feel like it's very important to know who you are specifically first before being in an intimate relationship, because I think that because of how everything is centered, people don't want you to be alone, and sometimes it's okay to do that. And
I think too it's made me really wary of when people approach me with that energy. I don't think I was able to really discern before when people were pursuing me purely for like physical intimacy, and now I feel like I can tell immediately, because how someone carries themselves towards you is so different. Like I don't know, I feel like you can really feel when you are not putting that energy out how it feels to receive it. And like I'm definitely a flirty person, but there's a difference between that and like actively pursuing someone in that way. And so that's been a really interesting reflection. And I'm also curious that if I meet somebody who I do have that feeling for now, I'm like, oh my gosh, is that gonna feel crazy? Which is also part of it. I'm like, I don't really want to approach all of my intimate relationships with this like vibe of like, I've been celibate for this amount of time and now it's the time. I think like just easing gradually back into like dating and
do you think it's made you more selective in
Oh,
who you
yeah.
give your time? Okay.
Absolutely. Like both romantically, but also even in friendships. Like, I think I'm a lot more sensitive to what energy I can have around me right now. Just like, especially being in kind of like a transitional moment in my life, I think sometimes it's really hard to want to be around people that it doesn't feel really easy and natural to be around, I guess. And I think that will 100% translate once I start dating again too. Like if it doesn't just click or feel smooth, I don't feel like I need to pursue it. There's nothing that I'm losing by leaving it there.
And I think as like growing up as a woman, like you're taught to be like not as selective. Like you're taught to like, well, if they do this, like, but they do this, so like maybe it's worth giving them another chance.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't deserve second chances.
Yeah. Maybe they'll change. Maybe they will choose me. Maybe they'll prioritize me. Maybe they'll meet me with the same energy that I'm giving them. Like all of these things. Like
it reminds me of this performance art piece by Faith Wilding called Waiting, which is basically her sitting on a rocking chair expressing all of the things in her life that she's had to wait for as a woman, just waiting for her period, waiting for the man to come into her life, waiting for her to have a baby, waiting for her to get old and become unattractive, all of these things. And I think it really emphasizes this feeling of spending your whole life waiting for someone else to change your life for you. And I'm so grateful that that's not my experience.
And so this whole experience has really allowed me to show up for myself as I would show up for a partner. And I really have started to value myself as a person and potential partner much more, which I think then will obviously make me more selective because I'm like, whoa, I kind of have a pretty big capacity for that.
And you're like, this is what I bring. I already know what I bring, you know?
Yeah.
I don't have to be like worried about what about what other people are going to think if I'm already sure in myself.
Yeah. And I think so often I try to fit myself into someone else's narrative. Definitely as a woman, I think we're really encouraged to do that, like you were saying. Throughout your life, you're kind of like, oh, well, you can make it work, or like they'll change, but really you're changing yourself or you're changing your standards to fit them. And I just don't want to do that because I don't feel like I need to. And I think that, you know, both parties are coming to the relationship ideally with a full cup and kind of like sharing, as opposed to, you know, maybe not always, maybe somebody needs help or needs assistance or needs someone to lean on at different times. Of course, I'm not saying always everyone is perfect and like no one ever does anything wrong. No, but it's more like, you know, a little more nuanced than that, I guess. It's also, that's a lot of pressure to go into it with, though, too. I'm trying to be like, okay, like, So,
how do you think that it's helped you creatively?
Well, for the most part, honestly, just the time. Like, I really, when I was in my previous relationships, just would, even if I wasn't actively with the person, I would spend so much time thinking or like planning a date or planning this or planning that. Like I get so excited about relationships that I wouldn't use that creative energy that I have for myself or for my music. I would use it for the relationship because I think that I definitely equate romance and sex and intimacy with creativity in a sense, because I think it kind of is the earliest sign of creativity. And so taking that away allowed me to channel all of that into my art. And so all of my journaling became less about like, you know, my relationship or past relationships or whatever, and became more about me and what my goals are and what I want and what I'm trying to achieve. And I came to realize I really don't know, which is like a good thing to realize that you don't know what you want. But it's also a good thing to start figuring out, I guess. So.
And then you also said that this gave you like a shift in mindset. And you're happy that you faced this challenge upon yourself. Are there like any other challenges that you think you would like try and set for yourself?
I would love to cut myself off from social media. My teeth just whistled. Social media. I think that would be something that would be really difficult for me, probably. I love my memes. I love scrolling on Reels, and I think it's much more addictive than I want to admit to myself, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think the field of work that I'm interested in doing makes it kind of hard to ever do that.
Yeah.
Which is sad. And I don't think I am disciplined enough to where like I have to go cold turkey if I'm doing something.
Yeah.
I'm not disciplined in a way where I'm like, I'm gonna set a timer and I'm gonna do only 2 hours when I get home.
Yeah.
You know, I wanna be full cold turkey. I mean, I have set some boundaries for myself because I talked to you before. Like I have my notifications off for like almost every single social media app that I have, because I feel like, I don't know, I read somewhere and it's so cringy, but it's like it's something that I've resonated with. It's just like you don't pick up your phone because you want to, you pick up your phone because your phone tells you to, because like you're like seeing the notifications pop up and so like that's like getting you to open your phone. I don't know. I try to detach myself as much from my phone as I possibly can. I'm trying to do this now where I'm like setting alarms not on my phone, so that I'm like not relying on my phone for my alarm. I'm using like something else to do that. So it's like because your phone does so much, it's like trying to limit the amount that it does.
Yeah.
So that you're not constantly on it. Because I don't know. I just find myself less creative because of it. Like I used to be able to read so much, but like now I'm starting to read again.
Yeah.
But I used to like read a book a week. I can't do that now because I just think my attention span is just like not strong enough. But I think it would be cool if I could just detach myself, like delete Instagram, delete Twitter.
Yeah.
Just like
go off grid.
Get memes from word of mouth. Like be one of those people
Draw
where
memes.
be one of those people where someone brings something up and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they're like, you don't know this? Yeah, I want to be that detached.
I feel like that with movies because I grew up without a TV for most of my childhood. And so when people are like, oh, you know this movie, it just goes right over my head. Yeah. And it's kind of a good feeling, but it's hard sometimes to relate to your peers. And I think that that's like social media has that same effect where it's like you're like, so you know, but I would love to go off grid too. I just feel like there's something really difficult about needing to like, I don't know, earn enough money so that I can like peace out for a while. Yeah. It's interesting to have that frame of mind rather than just having more of a like into the wild way of going about it.
Yeah, because it's so interesting. Like you'll forget your phone somewhere and then you like realize how much you use it actually and are dependent on it. It's crazy.
Maybe when you go home you'll have more time to like read
detach.
Yeah,
I think maybe that would be like my experiment of like trying to, because like I won't need it if I'm home. So
I want to hear.
I can like just be more involved with myself instead of other people.
I'm so curious if it helps your reading what do they call it? Like your reading processing time,
Yeah.
reading comprehension.
Yeah.
If it helps that come back, because I totally relate. I've been listening to audiobooks so much more now, which I didn't used to like.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier for me to consume it because I can do other stuff.
Well, you're like multitasking, yeah.
But I would prefer to actually just sit down and hold a physical book. But I find it so hard because it takes all of my faculties to do it. And I think that's what's so good about it is like you have to hold it with both of your hands and like look at it with like both of your eyes.
No, I'll be reading and be like, should I check my phone right now?
Yeah, like a boring paragraph comes up and you're like, yeah.
How long have I been doing this? And then you see a notification and you're like, wait, let me just check this really quickly.
Yeah.
And then it's like 10 minutes of you scrolling instead of reading.
Exactly. That's I've been trying to read like self-improvement books or psychology books recently because I feel like they're easier for me to engage with in some ways than like fantasy, because I think fantasy, I'm having a hard time accessing my like whimsical imagination side right now.
Maybe you should try literary fiction because it's like it's more based in real life.
Okay.
Because like I get that too, because like I had a conversation with a friend about that recently, because it's like sometimes it's hard to get into fantasy, especially like there's so much world building. It's like,
and then this character,
and then this made up thing that they have to spend 10 pages describing, and you're like, okay, and then there's like a whole map of the universe, and you're like, okay, so where are they in relation to the tower? Yeah, I get that, but
the tower. The tower.
Yeah, I recently read Annihilation, which is like a sci-fi book. It's kind of fantasy, and that one was pretty good. But it didn't focus too much on world building.
Yeah,
it just kind of like placed you there.
Was it scary?
It wasn't scary. Like there was a movie based off of it. Nothing like the movie. I think the movie just took the concept and then was like, oh my god,
ran with it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been obsessed with literary fiction. I can like suggest some stuff to you.
I
after.
Would love that.
But yeah, I think psychology books too. I think, I'm trying to get more into nonfiction too. I just think it's harder for me sometimes because like the jargon can be so convoluted. Yeah. But I think it's just about finding something that you're super interested in. I think sometimes when people are trying to get back into reading, they're trying to read stuff that they think they should be reading, which is like what I had a problem with when I first started reading. And then I watched a video of someone like, the last time you were reading was like in high school, and you were reading high school books, like you were reading like fiction stuff. Like don't go in trying to be like find the biggest nonfiction book possible and try and read like history. Like you're not going to enjoy it.
No.
And I was like, you're so
you
right.
Are correct.
You're so
I don't need to buy a textbook. Yeah.
So like it's like about finding like nonfiction books that you're interested in. I think psychology is a really good one because like I love psychology. I was a psychology major. And it's
cool. I didn't know that.
It's really fun. I don't know. It's to psychoanalyze people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to like really love Criminal Minds, and I wanted to like interview serial killers when I was like
you are. No, I'm kidding.
10 years from now.
Oh my god, don't say that. No, we're not manifesting.
We're
that.
not.
No. Yeah. No, I'll recommend you some of my little books that I've been reading too. I'd love to. I read Freakonomics recently, which was good because
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, it's fun. I've been enjoying just books like that are kind of like a little gimmicky and self-helpy, and I'm like, okay, I'm learning something helpful, and I think that that's helping me get back into it. Yes.
Okay, and so when you like sent me like your little blurb about your playlist, it said you're like growing and changing as consistently grieving the old versions of yourself. What do you think your past iterations would think of your present day version of you?
I think that I have been so many different versions of myself that it's hard to even imagine how they all would perceive me right now. which is maybe funny to admit, but I think generally, I think I would be really proud of myself, and how far I've come, especially since moving to New York. I feel like the amount of change that I've gone through in the past 3 years is something I'm proud of myself for. And I think that a younger me honestly would probably be like, what? You did that? That's crazy. You quit smoking and you started performing music and you like went through all that and you were celibate? What? Like, I think all of those things would, yeah. Oh, and my career, all of it, I think would be really surprising to me. I think like I went to art school kind of assuming that I would be a performance artist or work in art galleries, and I have not, since graduating, worked in a single gallery.
Do you think you'd ever visit that again, or do you think that's part of just your pathway?
I would love to. I think I could see myself later working in art direction, or
yeah, I can totally see that for you. Like, I feel like you have like a very distinct vision of like everything that you put out and do.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. And yeah, I really like curating a concept. And I think even if I could make little PowerPoints and show people them and mood boards and get people excited about a concept, that would be a really fun job. But I think, yeah, that'll come when the time and place makes sense for it, if it's meant to be. I've thought about so many different career paths, and I think with my job, just doing one thing at a time has felt more helpful. Yeah. Because my long-term goals are all really like ephemeral.
Yeah. And so, take me through your playlist a little bit, and like some of your favorite songs on it, or just your thought process while creating it.
Well, mostly I just put tracks that I've been addicted to listening to over and over on it. The first song is a Celtic traditional song sung by Fiona Kelleher, or Kelleher, Fiona Kelleher. Yes. And I really resonated with the song before I listened to it. I really resonated with the song initially, and then I Googled the lyrics and translated them, and it really took my breath away, and it really inspired the first verse, which was the new verse that I wrote for that song that we were talking about earlier, Looks Maxine. And highly recommend Googling and checking it out. Little Toki Monster, of course, to throw back. But I think my concept going into the playlist was, yes, little nuggets of my old self, like Toki Monster and Life Without Buildings, Grimes, and then elements of newer artists that I've started to really like Nourished by Time, November Girl, Dean Blunt, and curate them in a way that makes sense. And I also feel like the beginning of the playlist starts a little bit more like twinkly, fairy, ethereal, and then it gets more dancey throughout. So I wanted it to feel like you're kind of experiencing a change as you listen to it.
I really love the Crying Nudes.
Yes.
That I discovered. Aren't they part of like Dean Blunt's label, maybe?
So this is Mark, aka Div Pro, my producer for the Garbage Girl album, showed me that song, and it's speculated that it might be Dean Blunt, but even on the Dean Blunt Reddit, they're not 100% sure if it's Dean Blunt.
Yeah, it low-key sounds a little bit like one of the vocalists in Baratelia.
Yeah,
just a bit.
Oh my gosh,
I'm just like, who are these people who's putting out so
it's so good. I really, really like that song especially.
And then I love the song that just came out with Jessica Pratt and A$AP Rocky, which surprising but really good.
Really good combo.
Yeah.
I would love to see more from the two of them, honestly.
Yeah.
I'd love to see her vocals on heavier beats.
Yeah.
I think she's so magnetic, and also excited to hear A$AP Rocky's new project come out.
Yeah, because they haven't done anything really in a minute.
No, I'm excited. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny to have it right next to Leonard Cohen.
The duality.
Yeah.
So we're coming towards the end of the podcast. Is there anything that you want to plug or any last remarks you want to make?
Nothing to plug explicitly, but thank you to everyone so much who has streamed my album so far and sent me their thoughts on it, kind words, and adding it to their playlists. If you make a playlist with a Garbage Girl track on it, let me know, because I love listening to playlists that go well with my music. And keep your eyes peeled for some new visual stuff coming soon. I'm excited to world build a little bit. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to stay in touch.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been fun.